Okay, everybody, let's move on to using the automations writer. An automations writer can be added to any workspace just like any other writer, and we will investigate how that's used and its advantages within an automation. Before I go share my lab, we do have a question on how we stored the email attachments in the previous exercise, and it if it would require us to clean up the files later on. So the answer is yeah, like how we stored those files in the resources data folder, those files would essentially be there permanently until someone went and deleted them and cleaned them up. There is the option, I think I cut out there. There is the option to download to the temp folder, and then you can set up cleanup tasks on the temp folder. And so then those would regularly be deleted. However, the way we did it, the files would be permanent until someone manually deleted them. So hopefully that helps. Please make sure you've got follow presenter turned on. I'm going to share my lab. Go to the automations writer. So as we saw, these are the default output attributes from running any workspace. And while they are helpful, such as the time and the status, like whether it failed or succeeded, as well as the workspace name and repository and the log, they don't include any information about the data that you're actually processing inside of the workspace. And so the best way to get that information out into the automation so that you can pass values based on your data to downstream actions is using an automations writer. These writers are added to the workspace just like any other writer, and features flow to them, and then they are passed out these output ports that are generated when you configure a run workspace action in an automation that contains automation writers. Oof, I've said automation a lot. So then you can configure what are event attributes. So as you can see in this example, we've got email to, features output, and custom message. And those feature type attributes are now coming through the automation here. And so then they can be referenced in a downstream port. So for example, the email to, I'd probably be referencing that in an email external action where I'm trying to send an email, and then sometimes the email to would change based on, something in the workspace and different inputs. And then it isn't a static value that it would only be sending to one email. It would send to whatever email comes from that data in that workspace. Same thing here, we've got the different message and process summary, and so then you can work with those attributes downstream. Maybe you reference the summary attribute in another workspace to, I don't know, process an additional data set that's slightly related or something like that. Essentially, it's pretty flexible and you can do whatever you'd like. And so this is an example where the workspace kind of acts as a trigger and an action. So it's acting on previous data, but also triggering downflow data and sending messages that way, such as configuring alerts based on information that's coming through the automation. So one of those might be like a weather alert. Say you have a live API, and something that's pretty common in my area are snowfall alerts. And so maybe if there's going to be more than 2 feet of snow, we're going to send out an email to snowplow operators. And so we would configure that workspace to route the data through that port if the snowfall was greater than that value, but maybe we don't need to send any emails if it's less than that 2 feet. And so we would route it through a different port from the automations writer. So hopefully that kind of makes sense to everybody. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes to go through that exercise or lesson, complete the quiz, and then we will move on to the exercise.